I am attending this fabulous book fair that's been hosted by the Los Angeles Times and held at USC. I think more than 100,000 people attended this event. And one of the underlying themes of it is read. Read a book. It'll make you a more interesting person. It'll expand the windows of your horizons. If you don't read a book, you're only going to know about you. You're only going to know about your experiences. If you just open your heart and pages, you'll travel through time and space. Read.
I met you at the Roxy.
50 years ago.
51, yeah, at the Rocky Horror Show.
Oh,
My
God.
father introduced us.
Really?
Yes.
Was that the opening night that I brought John?
Yes, John and May were there.
Indeed. And
That's right.
Wasn't Mick Jagger with us?
He was there.
And then when we left the Roxy, we went across the street to the Rainbow and we all had pizza.
Yes, you were there. I was there.
People who were there at that time for that experience,
Yeah.
as the old proverbial saying goes, don't remember.
People who were there don't remember. I remember vividly because I was a fan of yours. Because the Bermuda Triangle. Remember that one?
That was a radio show I did 50 years ago.
It blew my mind, Elliot. I had it on tape. I would listen to it over and over. It was so good. And so when my dad introduced me to you, I was like, oh, of course, the Prince of Underground Radio. And you said, well, I'm overground now because I'm at KABC or whatever.
I can't imagine how you could recall.
Well, I was an impressionable 16-year-old, and there were a lot of heavy celebrities there. And while we were talking, May and John walked out of the Roxy, and then I just had to go over to their vortex to be close to them. So it was quite a, and Nick was there, and Peter Boyle was there, and Jack Nicholson was a lot of people there.
Oh, it was a stellar night. And John eventually asked me to stand by the edge of the booth, to prevent dozens of people coming up.
Yeah.
Well, you're standing there with all those celebs who just want to say hello to John.
Yeah. Yeah, but he was sequestered in a corner with Mick, and they were very like, "Don't bother us."
Well, that was my post.
That's
Do you think I'd ever be able to drive the golf cart myself?
Oh yeah.
I can?
No, I'm not the boss.
I just thought it'd be fun. I've never driven a golf cart. I've never been on a university campus.
Really?
When I came out here, I went to LAC College for a couple of years for study.
I did read your book.
Bless you. So this is the only time I've been to a university. And as I was showing up for the festival and looked around, they all look so young. They all look like teenagers.
Yeah.
So how old do you have to be? What's the average age of somebody going to university?
I would think probably between 18 and 20 for a freshman year.
They look like they're 15 and 16, don't they?
I mean, that young man has a beard, so.
Yeah. Well, I had a very good relationship with my parents. I loved them dearly, and I was the firstborn. I have a sister who is 2 years younger than me. And my father was a very hard-working, middle-class guy in the garment business in New York. My mom was a housewife in those days. And we loved each other. And they did the best they could for me. I was a Dr. Spock baby.
No relation.
No.
Elliot, I was just ready. I wanted to ask you a question about John and Yoko almost as parents. So, because although you were cultural peers, they were at least a decade older than you.
I think that is a significant transition here. That whereas I got along well with my family, the cultural glue was never really in place. John Lennon used to refer to Yoko as mother. That's what he called her, ocean child. And I got into the habit of thinking of her, thinking of them as maybe mother, father figures, maybe the people that I could communicate more clearly about in terms of my personal issues than my own parents. And then my parents grew up and died. And I had my best friends, which were John and Yoko. That was my coming of age. And of course, the loss of John took half of that with me. I can't imagine what my life would be like if Yoko was not here. It was in the early stages of my getting to know John and Yoko. They invited me to take a car trip with them from LA up to San Francisco. And at the time, they were coming off of an addiction to a drug called methadone, which had been given to them by a doctor to get them off of heroin. But they became addicted to methadone. So they were in a very frail state. They were driven across the United States, and we were going up the coast. They had no appetite whatsoever. First day and a half that I was with them, there was no food. And as we were getting close to Monterey Bay, I remembered that there was that long boardwalk with all the little restaurants, and one of them said that they wanted to have something to eat. It was a Sunday afternoon. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on the boardwalk. And I began to hear this murmuring in the back of the car. Couldn't quite figure it out until just before the door opened. We only had a driver, no security people or anything. I heard the Reverend Fred and Ada Gerken, the Reverend Fred and Ada Gerken, and it became clearer. The Reverend Fred and Ada Gerken, the Reverend Fred and Ada Gerken. They said it as if it was a mantra. Didn't quite get it. The crowds were coming this way. John, Yoko, and I were walking that way. They looked like John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Not one person took notice, asked for an autograph, take a picture. There was no acknowledgement at all. We went into the restaurant, which was crowded. We sat down, and the waiter came over and said, "What would you like to have?" And John, I think, said the split pea soup or something. And the waiter stepped back. And he said, "Is that you?" And within seconds, I heard a murmuring through the restaurant. And a moment later, people were standing up and moving towards our little table. And I, said to them, "Look, this is a difficult situation. I think we should, I'm not a football player in terms of getting you back to the car." We left. We got into the car. We continued to drive. I still hadn't eaten. And I said to them, "What went wrong?" And John said, "Look, one of our disguises is that we believe at times that we're other people. In this case, the Reverend Fred and Ada Gerken, who nobody knows or would recognize. We become that being, and we project it upon the people who see us, and it works. And I asked, what happened? And he said, when the waiter asked me for the food, and I talked like he talked, and ordered something, I broke the spell. One of the things about being, the fact that the three of us have shared experiences with people of fame, I guess the three of us tried in our own way to humanize the people that we were dealing with beyond the famousness. We weren't writing biographies as much as how we were touched. The famous are very different than you and I. And sometimes it's difficult to keep up. I don't read tell-all books. I never have. They never interested me. I'm not particularly interested in sensationalism in literature or television or anything. And I certainly never wanted to be accused of being one of those kinds of authors. Look, I was on the phone with John and Yoko, or John and Yoko, for the better part of 9 years every day. We traveled together. We had quiet, intimate moments where they shared with me everything. I was their confidant. When it came time to write the book, I drew the line at things that, A, if John's children, both Sean Ono Lennon as well as Julian Lennon, was to read what I was revealing, as well as their grandchildren, as well as historians, as well as the future, when should I just zip it? And there were some obvious ones. There was a time when we were on a plane ride, John and I alone, from Dubai to London. And it was late at night, and for reasons unknown, he just decided to talk to me about his sex fantasies, his sexual fantasies as a child, and the ones that he still has today at that time. Well, I knew that some of them were revealing and compelling, as fantasies tend to be. And I thought about that and decided that gets too close. In terms of religion and politics, he couldn't stop talking about those kinds of things. And I went on, I described those things, conversations in my book. I think you intuitively know when you've crossed a line in terms of talking about anyone. And with most people, it's gossip. And with authors, it's the big reveal. My ambition here was not to get into page 6.
Each of you wrote about people that have very strong public personas. And I'm really curious about, and you guys all had a very much of an insider, you saw them, privately. To what degree did you explore in your books their public personas versus their private ones, and how that might have been very different? But also, people like John Lennon, it seemed like he was an open book publicly and privately, but you probably saw him very differently. I'm curious about that contrast between what we know of those three and what you know.
I think that the public perception of who John Lennon was comes that close to being reality. John could have never gotten a job at the Pentagon or the CIA. He was incapable of keeping a secret or keeping his mouth shut.
He'd be perfect right now. Perfect candidate for the job.
I wonder if he'd be available. My personal relationship with him, when he felt something, he expressed it. And sometimes it was at my expense. And he said some very unpleasant things about me to me from time to time. And they were wounding and they were hurting, of course. I got less of that from Yoko, who just kept reminding me to pay attention. But in conversation with her, if I got something wrong or if I ever used the word, well, I assumed, that would be the end of that discussion. So in the case of the John and Yoko experience, as I know it to be and knew it to be, what you see is what you got and what was real. There was nothing phony about either of them. This is very new. And I am so moved by what my co-panelists have expressed this afternoon. And I'm listening to them and comparing their experiences as best as I can to mine. And I wanted to ask the audience a question.
Yes, please.
Do you think that the three people that you're looking at and have been so patiently listening to have been damaged because of our relationship to fame, to the famous people that touched our lives? How wounded have we become? Or is that your perception at all? I guess the easiest is if you think that we were damaged as a result of the people that were in our lives that were famous, just put your hand up.
Well, maybe to give a little context, because that is a very brave question, Elliot. I was going to ask about this. We didn't get time to get there, but in your book, you say, correct me if I get this wrong, because this is a pretty big statement. I believe I understood that you made, that you gave so much of your time and energy and love to John and Yoko. He had a phone line dedicated to them. 3 phone lines going to his house. One just went to John and Yoko's, and there was a red light above his bed. And the light would go on to show that John and Yoko were calling, because there was the time difference between New York and LA, so often it was the middle of the night. You say in your book that you wonder, you look back, if you had not met them, as wonderful as they were and as much as you got from them, if you might have married, had children, had a different, more traditional life. And so I wonder, are you sort of wrestling with that as you're asking the audience? Because I you don't talk about it too much in the book, but I think you might mention it once or twice, and it gonged for me. I heard that.
It's the subtle subtext of my book. My times with John and Yoko precluded me engaging in other contact with other people. For the first year or two, Yoko said I shouldn't even mention to anyone that I knew them. They liked the fact that when the phone rang, only I would pick up the phone, nobody else in the house. They liked the fact that when that hotline lit up, I wouldn't have to say, the wife has just gone to sleep, excuse me, I'm going to go into another room. That could have led to gossip later or pillow talk. The first time I invited a lady friend to join us for a little lunch or dinner, I was pushing the envelope to see if that could work. They were reasonably polite, but they made it clear on subsequent occasions that they would prefer that I come alone, where they knew that nothing would get out. And yeah, I do sometimes ask at this ripe age, what would have been different? Did I take the right path? I wrestle with it, but for the moment, I wouldn't have traded anything for those years with John Lennon and Yoko Ono. That's it. Hi, how are you?
Oh yeah.
What's your name?
Ben.
Hi, Ben. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And thank you for coming out on the rain.
Yeah. You make that with Arnie, so A-R-N-E.
Not Ben.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my dad. He's big, yeah.
Ah.
Big fan. He got the white banner. I really appreciate your friend here.
Here comes the sun.
Thank you so much.
If you'd like, we can take a picture. Hi, how are you?
Great. Thank you so much for your stories about John and Yoko. And it's a
Well,
pleasure
thank you
to-
so much.
I love them, so I love you too.
Bless you for coming out in the rain and standing out here with an umbrella for this.
Yes, birthday.
Oh, what's your first name?
My name is Scott.
Scott.
And I'm a librarian. Thank you for doing this. I hope you're doing this for
Oh, look. It's one of the joys of the experience.
As it says, we all shine on, so we'll be fine.
I'm so excited. I hope they had a good time at my My name is Allie. I mean, as a woman, it's a Japanese American one, especially. You know, for me, like there are so few Asian American, especially female cultural icons, and she's certainly, if not, you know, maybe the only one of her age, of her, you know, caliber and knowledge. Please say more.
To answer the question that you asked us, the audience.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I wanted to ask you a question. So, you were asking about the we feel size for damage as a result of these places. My instant thought was yes, but who isn't by any intimate relationship, any close love experience of intimacy or love of people, you are inherently subjecting yourself to damage and unbelievable even that's just releasing everything. So that was how I felt. Like
Really wise. It's really wise. We've all been in circumstances like this. We just happen to know the names of people.
Exactly.
And I don't know the names.
Exactly. But I mean, it's almost like, especially I think of the parent-child relationship dynamic in both directions. It's such a specific and like there's no other bond like it, even if there isn't a bond. And it's just so from my perspective, like disappointment, hurt feelings, maybe even things more extreme than that are inevitable. But it's also a sign of love. Like you can't get your heart broken if you didn't love or if you didn't care. So I think that that's universal in whoever our close relationships happen to be with, whether again, like you said, famous people or otherwise. So
It's really profound.
of course.
What's your name? Eric. Eric. Yes. Are you a psychologist?
armchair.
Hi.
Robert Cunningham, I owe you an apology. When Roy Tuckman died and Kid Cases had me, I worked nights for 30 years and I listened to him all. We got thousands of hours of entertainment. So I had a 10-part video that you get on my website. They had a tribute for him on a Sunday and I recorded the audio and I overlaid it with the video of we were hugging and him almost crying.
Have you tried going on the Elliot Mintz official YouTube channel?
No, is it on there?
That's where the jukebox is.
I already read your book, but I thought it was great.
So, thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you very much. So.
We signed this
Bye.
properly for you. This is an independent bookstore on the USC campus. It's called Pages. It's so important for people to support independent bookstores. There are not many left around. And the big companies want to put the little companies out of business. So wherever you live, if there's an independent bookstore in your neighborhood, show them love. Hi, how you doing? Good. Business good?
Hang it in there.
Hi, how you doing?
How's it going? It's going good. I love your jacket.
Well, thank you. This is a very interesting store.
Yeah, you heard about us?
I'm discovering you in this very moment.
Oh, wow.
Experience God's Word through beautiful design.
Yeah, so we started out with books of the Bible, pairing imagery with text of the Bible, so that it makes it approachable.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, feel free to pick them up and go through.
The Gospels. Jesus calms the storm. Oh, these are beautiful.
Beyond that, we've expanded to Bible studies and testimony books, where these are interactive journals.
Well, I want to take one of your books.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
Bible study would be a good
Bible
idea
study?
for me.
That's
Yes.
great, perfect.
How much is that?
The Bible study one is $31.20.
Perfect. And have you been doing well here at Book Fair?
We're having so much fun. This is our first year, and
Have you sold books?
yes, we have. We sold.
Do you take credit cards?
Yes, credit. Perfect.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a great rest of the day.
You too, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
I'm not a celebrity, but I wrote a book and I was part of a panel inside. I wrote a book called, have you ever heard of John Lennon?
Yeah. Yes, I have, sir. So you knew John Lennon?
I knew John Lennon and Yoko Ono very, very well.
Well, look at you.
So I wrote a book about my 9 years with them. And that's what
You
my...
traveled with the Beatles for 9 years?
Well, not the Beatles. not
Okay.
the-
Just those two.
John Lennon and Yoko Ono. And that's what my book is about.
You're a very smart person because they were into some highly intelligent stuff. I'll put it
Well,
that way.
talk about highly intelligent stuff.
Did you notice that every book has a title, Grace, on it?
I did notice that immediately when I walked
Why
out.
do you think I did that? You're a smart man. I look at you and
I presume that you constantly offer grace
well, thank you.
and that you live in grace.
You know,
And
I discovered something. Today's my birthday, by the way, so
Well, happy birthday.
thank you. I discovered something,
Tell me.
that it is grace that allows us to live in these filthy bodies but still have a pathway to God.
It's beautiful.
Grace is that essence in us that I can give to you and you can say, wow.
May I look through one of your...
So, of course.
And also to be doing this on the day of the burial of the Pope.
Think about that.
Just think about
The symmetry.
you being at this moment in time with these books while he's been laid to rest hours ago.
Read the one, the second one. There's love. Yeah, you look like a person who would appreciate a book of feelings, a book of love,
If the sun goes dark, you'll become my true light. While the world is turning, I hold you through the night. Well, something has obviously directed me to you today. I'd like to buy this book, please.
Certainly. Oh,
May I?
yes, certainly.
And do you take credit cards?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
35.
And have a lot of people been coming by today?
You're my 31st sale. 31. 31st sale.
Your 31st customer.
Yes, sir.
31 is a good number.
It is an incredible number. I'm shaking because I've never met a person of prominence who is humble as you are. So,
I don't know.
I'm duly blessed by meeting you, sir. Thank you.
God bless you.
No, you know something? What a compliment. You understand what a compliment that is.
Thank you. Thank you. I just don't think of myself as a person of prominence.
Put it on top of it. It's good. Just say, go.
Oh, you
Put it
just
here.
wave it over it. Ah.
Would you like a receipt?
No, they send me one. Thank you.
I am so encouraged that you would. I want you to sign it instead of me. I'm so. What's that word? Grateful? Is that a proper
Yes,
word to say?
grateful.
Thank you, sir.
I am grateful to have met you. Please. And I love the idea that I'm asking that somebody else is signing something for me today.
If you guys would like to get on the card, we have the card available still for the next 5 more minutes. Otherwise, can we get you guys back to?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, all of you.
Would you like a receipt?
Don't need one.
Well, I think my card though.
I will. God bless you.
Oh, thank you, sir. God bless you.